Hi everyone, we are back. We're talking about another non-current Celtic issue on the channel today. Now, I've been doing a lot of non-current Celtic issues over the last wee while. Why? Because this current Celtic team isn't really worth talking about as far as I'm concerned. Although I did do just that with David on the live post-match reaction after the pretty dire 1-1 draw at Pittodrie last night. I will link that above if you want to go and watch that. But in terms of today's video, we are going to take a look at something that was mentioned in the press late last night. It was the yearly emergence of reports that Celtic could be about to join the English League to make a so-called British Super League. Now, this isn't going to happen, I am pretty sure, and I will go into detail into why I believe that's the case later on in the video. But I do think it is interesting to look at the potential future for Celtic, where the team could be playing, the emergence of cross-border leagues, what UEFA and FIFA are saying about all this. So that's exactly what we're going to do on today's video. Talk of Celtic and Rangers going to play in another league that isn't Scotland is really never far away. You probably get reports of it maybe 2 or 3 times every single season. If it's not England that they're talking about, it is an Atlantic League or a Nordic League or a Scandinavian League, however you want to describe it. It's the same kind of idea. I actually got a message from one of you wonderful people asking me if I would do a video into the Atlantic League. So you're going to get your wish here for part of this video at least, as we go in depth on the history of the Atlantic League and where plans stand today. And no, I have not taken this from Wikipedia. Right, the first mention of the Atlantic League is from a way back in the year 2000. It was initially led by PSV Eindhoven. Their main reason for proposing this Atlantic League was that they and other clubs from smaller nations around Europe were being left behind by the bigger leagues. Sounds a bit familiar. So PSV hatched a plan for this Atlantic League. They contacted fellow Dutch clubs, Ajax and Feyenoord, as well as Celtic and Rangers and Porto, interestingly. A BBC report from the time suggested that Celtic were very interested in the proposals. The chat was that this league would have an average attendance figure of above 30,000, making it the third largest in Europe, I'm assuming behind England and Germany, and therefore worthy of a similar TV contract to the likes of England, Germany, Italy, Spain, France, etc. However, the idea was rejected in the end by UEFA in February 2001. Instead, European football's governing body promised a refurb of the UEFA Cup, bringing back the group stage. That worked well, fellas. But PSV weren't to be silenced. A couple of years later, they returned back to the table with a slightly altered proposal for an 18 or 20 team league. This time, Scotland would have 5 places as opposed to 2, therefore allowing opportunities for the likes of Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs to join the league. In 2003, it was the turn of the North Atlantic League Cup, featuring 16 teams in total in a group stage going into knockout rounds. Now, the 16 teams were made up 4 from Scotland, 4 from the Netherlands, 4 from Belgium and 4 from Denmark. The plans never really got off the ground at all with this one. It was just a bit of a strange idea, to be honest. Talk of an Atlantic League has been pretty quiet in the years since. It did briefly raise its head in 2008 and then again in 2016 when Copenhagen, who we know well, spoke openly about the idea. It was mentioned that the likes of Celtic, Rangers, Anderlecht, Club Brugge, Malmo and even HJK Helsinki had been involved in discussions at this stage. And the current plans for the Atlantic League are led by an Irish businessman called Andrew Doyle. The plans are said to be on pause or dead due to the fact that Celtic aren't keen on the idea at all, which probably says quite a lot. The plans, just for the record, were to have teams from Scotland, from Sweden, from Norway, from Denmark, and interestingly, bizarrely, from the Republic of Ireland as well to make up this league. Interestingly enough, there's no mention of Dutch or Belgian teams in this Atlantic League proposal, and there hasn't been for a few years. The reason for this, as you will probably know if you're an avid follower of the channel, is that the Dutch Football Association, or the Eredivisie, the top league in the Netherlands, and the Belgian Pro League, the top league in Belgium, are seemingly looking at plans to merge those two leagues into a so-called Beneliga. Now, that hasn't been confirmed yet. It's still a way off from happening, but it certainly looks far more likely than anything proposed as far as an Atlantic League is concerned. That merger of the Dutch top flight and the Belgian top flight is just one of many that are being mooted around the world at the moment with regards to football. There's been pretty positive conversations about an All-Ireland League. Equally, there's also been chat over in North America with regards to a merger of the Mexican top flight and the MLS to create a super league of that part. FIFA are actually behind that idea, and in general, FIFA and UEFA are behind the idea of cross-border leagues. So where will Celtic end up? With the failure of the Super League, I think it's important that Celtic enter a competition where there is still an open door to any other team in any of the nations to get up to the top league. I don't think we could enter a closed shop, as was mooted with regards to the Super League. I don't think it's going to be England we're going to. I said that at the start of the video. The reason for that is that for any huge structural changes in the Premier League, they have to have 14 of the 20 clubs voting for it, 2/3 voting for it. Why would 14 clubs vote for something that would decrease their chances of being in the top flight? So no to England, no to joining Holland and Belgium in the Beneliga. I just don't see why they would want us. It's a bit messy. Their current proposed system is nice and clean, makes sense, they're neighbouring countries. I think the far more likely scenario for the future, if Celtic are going to join some sort of a cross-border league, is that we end up in one with the other Scandinavian teams. Now, would a top flight with 3 or 4 Scottish teams, 3 or 4 Swedish teams, Danish teams, Norwegian teams, maybe even HJK Helsinki from Finland, would that make a good division? It would certainly be stronger than each of the individual leagues at the moment. But is Celtic versus, say, Midtjylland, for example, a far more marketable and appealing game than Celtic against Motherwell? Now, Midtjylland are obviously a far better team than Motherwell. They were in the Champions League group stage this season. They're probably a far better team than Celtic, if we're honest. But in terms of the marketing aspect and the appeal of the game, is a game like Midtjylland or Malmo or Rosenborg really that much greater than a Hibs or Hearts or an Aberdeen against Celtic? I'm not convinced by that at all. I think if we were going to leave Scotland, we have to do it for something that is worthwhile. I'm not actually for the idea of leaving Scotland. I think we have to be part of this country. I don't see what gives us and maybe Rangers or even Hibs or Hearts or Aberdeen the right to just depart and say goodbye to all the teams. I think that would make us just as bad, just as culpable as the 12 teams who signed up for the European Super League. But the facts are that UEFA and FIFA are now in favour of cross-border leagues. We are going to see more and more of these popping up over the next wee while. I know we'll usually get the comments in videos like this saying there are already cross-border leagues. Vaduz play in Switzerland, Monaco play in France, Berwick Rangers play in Scotland, Wrexham, Swansea, Newport and Cardiff all play in England. I know that. I'm talking about actual merging of leagues like Belgium and Netherlands are doing. We're going to get far more of them in the future, so I think Celtic will be involved in one. I think Scandinavia is our most likely option just because there's not many other options going. But Celtic have to do it right if that's done. We can't be seen to be just walking away from Scotland like is happening with the European Super League. There can't be a closed shop with regards to Celtic's future leagues, and it has to be done right. Right, I hope you've enjoyed this futuristic video. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about what I've said? What do you think about the proposals? I promise we will chat about the current Celtic team, current Celtic issues when something worth chatting about actually happens. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you've not done it yet. It would really be appreciated. We're back tomorrow with another video.